one of my all-time favorite mushroom side dishes. This is just classic caramelized onions and mushrooms. This is one of those things that is so easy. Well, it's easy for me. One of those things that is so few ingredients that the technique is really the secret. And the secret here, you might think, oh, we just put mushrooms and onions in a pan and cook them. Wrong. The secret is that you cook the onions and the mushrooms separately because they caramelize differently and they take different times to cook. Then you mix them together at the end. That is just the secret there that will change the game if you've made anything like this before. The other thing is caramelized onions. So we went over this briefly in my mushroom dip that I posted a few weeks ago. Now I'm going to go over it again in excruciating detail because this is like my biggest pet peeve is how onions are treated here. And the first thing that we're going to go over that you're not going to see mentioned in a lot of other places is that the outer top layer of onion flesh needs to be removed and thrown away along with the skin. I am just shocked at how many people will just take this onion skin that can be like leather and dental floss and put it into their food. It'll ruin a whole dish. Okay, so these are just from my local co-op. Look at that outer layer. Now, if I want, I might even take another layer off just to be safe. Just because, like I said, just one of those can ruin a whole dish. Now we're going to cut the onions in half, and now we're going to go over how onions should be sliced, because there is definitely a right way and a wrong way, and this is hands down my biggest pet peeve in the entire world of food. I'm kind of crazy about this. So I cut the onions into 1-inch pieces there. You can cut them longer if you want, but what you do not do is cut them the long way on the left because they are like tapeworms. Okay, every time I see a long onion like that, all I think of is I'm eating a tapeworm. And the texture is tough, they're terrible. Okay, wrong way on the left, we never cut onions like that. Right way on the right, we always cut onions like that. Got it? Great. Now we're going to take our onions that have been sliced the correct way, and we're going to put them in a pan with just a little bit of oil. All we need here is water and a pinch of salt and heat. And this is going to take about 15 minutes. So you do not cook your onions for hours and hours. That's just going to make a pile of pig slop. You're going to overcook them and have them be mushy. But you can see here when the pan gets dry, I just add a splash of water and I stir the pan. And this way the onions get glazed in their natural sugars. There's no brown sugar, no balsamic vinegar, no maple syrup, no bull. All you need is onions, water, and heat. And about 15 minutes. And then we just keep stirring that vigorously until the onions are like mahogany brown, sweet and delicious, and you want to put them on everything. Okay, now for the mushrooms. Lots of different ways that you can do these here, much less complicated than the onions. So these are hen of the woods, and it's been a really great season for them. I'm just going to cut the mushrooms into, pieces that are like a little bit larger than the onions, because the onions are kind of a complement to the mushrooms here, even though we are using an equal weight of mushrooms and onions by weight for this recipe, although you could play with that a little bit depending on what you want. So I got the mushrooms cut up. You could also cut the mushrooms into larger pieces if you want to kind of show off their natural shape, and I'm going to show you that kind of at the tail end of the video here. Now, another key point. If you just cook the mushrooms and try to brown them in oil, they're going to soak up so much oil that it's going to be really oily because we're going to cook this down and get all the moisture out. So what we're going to do is we take a little water, put it in the pan of the mushrooms, and cook them. It's called a wet saute that allows you to control the amount of oil that's going to go into the dish. Now, when the mushrooms are cooked, after they're par cooked, we're going to brown them. A little oil, a little salt, and just cook them until they start to get some nice color, because this is going to make them taste twice as good. They're going to taste bland if you don't put any color on them. Then I'm going to finish this with a little fresh thyme. Stir that in, and we want to make sure that the thyme or sage or rosemary, you could use any of those, we want to make sure that the herbs contact heat and they get cooked out because they need cooking. Then at the end, we're just going to toss our jammy, sweet, rich onions in and mix them all up. And voila, there we go. All done. Now, leaving mushrooms in larger pieces. So one of the cool things about hen of the woods specifically, and you could do this with halved shiitake caps or whatever, but you can play around with the shape of the mushrooms a little bit depending on what you want to do. And these are so big here. I just love this shape of hen of the woods in these petals. it, just really shows off the individual character of the mushrooms. But what we can do is just add the onions here. And you can see the onions in this way when we adjust the shape of the mushrooms and the size. The onions are much more of a complement. And now, if we take this, they can basically be the main component of a vegetarian meal, with the right accompaniments. Or you can just, put them on top of a steak or whatever you want. Because, of course, these are one of the best complements for steak or burgers. And I have a few other ideas of things that you can use them with. They're also great. You can freeze these and just pull them out of the freezer too. They freeze like a dream. So you can take a chicken breast and fry that in a pan, get it like half done, skin on or skin off, and then deglaze it with wine, add a little chicken stock, cook that down, add your caramelized onions and mushrooms, a splash of cream. Fantastic, incredible pan sauce. The best steak or burger topper. I mean, it's like the mushroom and Swiss burger of your dreams right here. Or like my mushroom dip that I posted a couple weeks ago, you can mince them all up and add a little sour cream for a great dip. Baked pasta, especially like carbonara with like a little bit of cream and nutmeg. Put it on focaccia and bake it as a focaccia topping. Or a garnish for vegetarian steaks, particularly cauliflower and butternut squash steaks. And there you go. Quick and pretty opinionated breakdown of how I cook just classic caramelized onions and mushrooms, a great mushroom side dish you can do all kinds of things with. The full recipe is on my website, so link at the top of the video description for that. Thanks for watching.